Your future is full of struggle and anguish. Most of it self-inflicted.
If you're a fantasy hero, then there is a high chance that a strange woman has already made a prophecy about you. But why?
The greatest king that ever lived.
For none of woman born shall harm Macbeth.
The one thing we can be almost certain about is that the fortune teller was a woman.
Ladies.
And that's not an accident. People usually explain this with intuition, mysticism or aesthetics, traits we tend to associate with women. But none of those are the one real reason. Because across mythology, fantasy and even sci-fi, prophets follow one single storytelling rule. And once you know that rule, you'll start spotting it in every prophecy ever told. Part 1. Wait, it's only women? Always has been. Fantasy is full of prophecy, like people don't always realize that the entire dynamic between Harry and Voldemort is driven by a prophecy.
Haven't you always wondered what was the reason for the connection between you and the Dark Lord?
And that is Trelawney's prophecy.
Beyond!
What a load of rubbish.
Achilles' mother prophesies that if he goes to Troy, he'll meet glory but death.
You know this to be true, Mother.
I know this.
Whenever a story needs someone who can see the future, it reaches for a woman, but not just any woman. It's actually a very specific kind of character. The starting point of this trope is the Pythia at Delphi, a woman breathing fumes, speaking riddles for kings and heroes. In Greek tragedy, it would be Cassandra.
I cannot bless what I see in your future, Paris.
Cassandra!
Cursed to know the future, but never to be believed. In Arthurian legend, it's the Lady of the Lake, but the trope is still alive today.
Don't worry about the days.
What days?
In The Matrix, the one character who actually understands how fate works is the Oracle. In Dune, the future of the galaxy is shaped not by the Emperor, but by the Bene Gesserit, an all-female order whose entire purpose is to control prophecy. And so it seems that all the prophets are women, but the pattern actually gets even weirder than that, because you can actually guess the kind of prophet they are, depending on the way they look. Part 2.
By the pricking of my thumbs, something wicked this way comes.
You can actually predict the tone of the prophecy just by looking at the prophet. If she is young and beautiful, her prophecies often sound like confused warnings. She's a gifted but ultimately powerless girl, desperately trying to help.
This agony I live with.
On the other end of the spectrum, when the prophet looks frightening, the prophecy starts to sound less like a warning and more like a threat.
Thou shalt get kings, though thou be none. So all hail Macbeth and Banquo.
When she's a seductress, the prophecy becomes seductive.
You will sit on the Iron Throne.
If she looks ordinary, then the prophecy feels calm, confident. So narratively, the nature of the prophecy is reflected in the body of the prophet. Part 3.
It is known. It is known.
Here is the real reason why fantasy prophets exist and why they are usually women. They represent authority, but without agency. An oracle is someone who knows the truth, sees the future and understands fate.
Indoor plumbing, it's gonna be big.
Great. Anyway.
But the entire crux of her role is that she cannot use that knowledge. She doesn't make decisions, lead armies, or even use her knowledge for personal gain. She is completely self-effacing. And sure, sometimes this role is given to a man. Take the Red Skull in Avengers. He guards ultimate knowledge but cannot act on it.
Guiding others to a treasure I cannot possess.
But crucially, this isn't who he is. He finds himself in this situation as a punishment.
A lifetime ago, I too sought the stones, but it cast me out. Banished me here.
In other words, he's been cast into a role traditionally coded as passive, advisory and non-dominant.
My little Cassandra.
That is the Oracle archetype. For the Red Skull, it's the ultimate humiliation. Oracles don't make decisions. They just tell the hero what's coming and then step aside. Narratively, this makes them incredibly useful, because they can shape the plot, but without hijacking it. The Oracle can never act, because if she could, she would solve the problem, and would take over the role of the hero. That's why prophecy needs to come from someone who can speak with absolute authority, and yet remain powerless to intervene. That combination is not accidental. For most of storytelling history, or maybe just plain history, women were allowed to speak truth, but without being allowed to rule. So when stories needed a character who could reveal destiny, but without threatening to take over the hero's place, then that role would naturally fall to women. So unfortunately, it is not that storytellers trusted women more to know the future, but it is that they trusted them not to take over the hero's place, despite knowing the future. Part 4. Liminality. liminality. When you clicked on this video, you might have had some expectation of what reason I was about to give for why fantasy prophets are always women. People usually explain this pattern by pointing to intuition, saying women are more perceptive, closer to the unseen.
Something awful happened here, Ed.
If you want to be fancy, you can call this liminality, being closer to thresholds, transitions, life and death. Or maybe you thought that this role was given to women because it's a quick hack to sexualize them. Like, I swear it's for the plot, guys. She really has to be half naked because removing her clothes makes her like closer to the gods or something. And here's the thing, none of these explanations are wrong, but they don't explain what people think they explain. Stories don't start by saying women are intuitive and therefore they should predict the future. They start by needing a character who can speak truth without seizing control of the story. And only once that role is already in place, then intuition, mysticism and aesthetics slowly gather around it. Part 5, it's raining men. No, it's not raining men. At this point you might be thinking, well, okay, but they are male prophets. And you would be right, but they follow very specific rules. When men are cast in prophetic roles, they are old, wounded, blind, desexualized, one might even say emasculated, at least symbolically, but sometimes even literally. Think of Tiresias, a prophet of Apollo. He is blind, completely removed from political power, and also, guess what? He was transformed into a woman for 7 years. You cannot make this up. Well, I mean, I guess you can. In other words, when men become oracles, they are stripped of the things that usually give male characters agency. They are allowed knowledge, but only once ambition has been removed. And then there is the second exception. Sometimes the prophet is the protagonist, and suddenly, yeah, it becomes a man again. But when that happens, their prophetic authority doesn't support a protagonist, but replaces one entirely. So it actually reinforces the pattern that when a fantasy story needs a prophecy to support the hero, then the prophet will be a woman, or more rarely, a man but who has been weakened enough so that he cannot take over the story from the hero. Part 6. There are no young and healthy male oracles, so far. The trope of the oracle has survived to this day because it's an extremely useful narrative trick. It's basically the writer saying, hey, you should listen to this story to the end to find out if Oedipus really does marry his mom, or you should watch season 8 of Game of Thrones to see if Jon Snow really kills the Night King. A prophecy is as close as a writer can get to breaking the fourth wall. And making a promise to the audience. Because of that, the character of the oracle is not going anywhere. But I do think we're going to see a shift in how they are portrayed. Modern writers love, for better or worse, to play with the expectations of the audience. And in that context, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing young, healthy male prophets who are not believed and who don't take over the hero story, or scary male wizards appearing in group of threes and smirking. If you are still here, then it means you're in the 25% of people who watch my videos to the end. So really thank you so much. I made another video in a very similar style to the one you have just watched, exploring the trope of lost cities, and specifically why they all fall for the same reason. Hopefully the link to that video should be on your screen now. Thank you so much for watching, and see you next time.